Welcome to The Ripple Within, a podcast by All in One Life Coaching. I'm Michelle, a certified life coach specializing in mindset, emotional wellness, and the law of attraction. I work with people to help create the narrative around their desired outcome.
And I'm Kathy. I'm here to ask the questions, explore the patterns, and share the real life moments that make this all, make sense.
The show is about the connection between how we feel and the physical reality we experience every day. We'll explore how our thoughts lead to outcomes and how narrative shifts can create big change.
We'll keep it grounded using logic and lived experience, not just theory. And if you've ever wondered why you feel stuck, reactive, or out of sync with yourself, you're not alone.
Our life experience will always match how we feel. This podcast is about exploring our ripple within and how our thoughts, emotions, beliefs, and values contribute to the physical life we live. Let's get into it. Welcome back, everyone. All right, Kathy, what have you got for us today?
I want to talk a little bit about how law of attraction and our happiness is more about what we are doing than what someone else is doing.
Your timing is impeccable. I have just been engaging with some clients on this very subject this week. And the reason why it's so important for us to remember that when we're talking in terms of law of attraction and why it's about what we're doing is it's almost in the title, law of attraction. So what are we attracting? And it can be such a tricky subject from a perspective that when we've had a tough life experience or a rough life experience, it is hard for us to comprehend that somehow we contributed to it. But the reality is we did. Now, we didn't do it on purpose. We didn't contribute to the bad things on purpose. However, where we are on an emotional scale will create how we talk, how we behave, how we conduct ourselves with others, what we're doing in here with self-talk. And it's important for us to remember that law of attraction isn't necessarily going bite for bite, so to speak. When we're in a place of optimism, then we open ourselves up to everything in this bucket. When we're in a place of blame or guilt, then we open everything up that's within this bucket. So it doesn't mean that when we're taking part in this experience that, just because we might be blaming somebody for something right now, they're blaming back. That's not quite what that means. But if we're in blame, the point of the whole thing is that's where we are right now. That's how we are feeling right now. And we only have power over one person's emotional state, really, and that's our own.
Is that why we tend to use the word you a lot? Like you did this, you didn't do this. Is that where that
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So again, it's one of those things where number one, it's practiced and learned behavior. It's something that we've just been doing for a really long time in society in general. And there's just not many people who are running around going, this bad thing happened and I had something to do with it.
Nobody's going to want to do that, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Right. But the reality is our emotional state dictates again how we behave, how we conduct ourselves. So then when we go out into the jungle and into the real world, and we're now having those conversations with other people, and we're in what we call the rabbit hole, then we might be harsh, we might be snappish, we might not even want to have a conversation. And we know we've been on the receiving end, we've dished it, and we've been on the receiving end of somebody else in the rabbit hole. And it takes a lot for us not to go. When we're watching somebody do something, I want to make sure we understand that when we're watching somebody do something, say something, anything like that, we are still the ones interpreting.
We're still making it up in our heads, right? Yeah, because we can't know.
Mm,
Yeah.
We really can't know for sure unless, of course, they've blatantly,
Yeah.
come out and said something. Then we do want to take that for face value. But what's important is that when we experience that uneasiness, that feeling of this has gone sideways, or I don't feel good, or I don't like what somebody else might be saying. And this is something that, again, I feel like you are truly honing in on yourself, like just this discovery of being a part of a conversation, doesn't matter with whom, but you can recognize pretty early on if there's all of a sudden a tension, or if, right, like something doesn't feel quite right. I feel like now you're getting so much more proficient at discovering what that is. And when we can observe, when we can hear, when we can feel that pang, right? So you think you're having a conversation with somebody and you're feeling good and optimistic and you're having fun and you're going with the flow, and then somebody says something that almost takes the wind out of your sails. It is, number one, if it takes the wind out of your sails, then it's a normal reaction for you as the person to feel that discord, to feel like, ugh, like that felt like a jab, or that felt like, passive aggressive, or that felt like something negative. And that would be accurate and something that we can all relate to and understand, because, and we talked about this before as well, and I'll say it with every one of my clients. You are not meant to look at something that doesn't feel good or take part in something that doesn't feel good and enjoy it. We're just not meant to do that. So it's why it becomes weird and tricky when it feels like others are asking us to do that. Like you're coming to the table as, a bit of a jerk, and you want me over here just to love that and be like, "Oh, no problem." And that's not the case either. What it's meant to do is help us discover what's important to us, the behaviors we want to put out into the world and into the universe, those conversations that we're having. Anytime we take part in something that we don't like, there's so much valuable information in it, because number one, it gives us clarity. I don't like that. I don't like it. And when we can have those moments and not expect you or someone else, you, to do anything different, I am going to do something different. And then you're going to come to this party or you're not. I'm still making that conscious decision to be over here. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
it's like, for lack of a better thing, husbands and wives, right? The
Mm-hmm.
maybe the wife comes home and she's had a rough, she just wants to vent. And the man's reaction, and that's a real general statement, and I apologize in advance for that, but the the man wants to fix it, right? Like right away he wants
Yeah.
to, defend his woman, or you know what I mean? It wants to help her feel better by fixing it. And it's it's not his it's not his job to fix it for her. But sometimes on the other, she just wants to vent. She just wants somebody, or he, to just listen. I don't need you to fix it. I just want to just have verbal diarrhea and just get it out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's why communication is so important, and being able to ask those questions with partners, friends too. Having those communications, one of my favorite questions to ask is, how do you like to communicate? If you're having a bad day, how would you like me to show up for that? And then being able to come to agreements. And it's funny because I've said this for years about having relationship agreements. And yes, it's something that I saw off the Big Bang Theory. And in the moment, because
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like 10 or 15 years ago now, quite some time ago, I was like, oh, that's insane. Why would anybody do that? And now I'm like, we should all have relationship agreements, and not to get people to do things for you, but so that we really are talking about the nitty gritty of what living life is really about. And oftentimes I had one where, I had a client where Jane was like, well, I want my partner to be a leader, to, lead like a true man. And I'm like, what does that mean? Like, what does leading as this person mean? And she was wonderful. She was able to list off a bunch of things. And she's like, well, safety and security. And I was like, that's wonderful. What does that mean?
Yeah.
What does safety and security mean? And it was interesting because this was a couples session, and the partner, John, he couldn't answer it either. Even though his definition of being a man who leads, he really couldn't answer what the specifics were. So now we have two people who agree what, that
Yeah.
looks like on a broad scale, but not to the specific details of what's truly important to them inside of that. And when we take that time to, number one, we know, just as you said, and one of the recommendations I like to make with clients as well in those situations is, if we're having a bad day and we do just want to vent, and because technology is so easy now, shoot your partner a text and say, hey, I've had a day. I'm coming home. I'm going to have my verbal diarrhea, and I would love nothing more than for you just to sit with me while I do it.
Yeah.
And then that way, because and actually a great example of this is going to be what happened with us at work yesterday in our day jobs. We had a meeting. There was 6 of us, I think, in that group. We all work in the same department. We all have different levels of experience. We were talking about one process, but we had 5 different opinions. And it was why that meeting yesterday ended up being so incredibly valuable, because not only did we get to, it's giving me
Yeah,
the
me
chills
too.
now just
Yeah.
even talking about it. The reason why we were able to get to such solution and clarity with the entire team, there is no one now that was part of that conversation yesterday that isn't going to understand the process we were developing. And it wasn't that anybody was doing anything wrong before, but if we leave it up to guess, if we leave it up to chance, it is just 50-50 that those things are going to line up. And we can not almost guarantee, I will guarantee that it lines up. When there's uncertainty or lack of clarity, that's rabbit hole. So when somebody says, I would like you to lead, or I would like, to be able to just vent, and we haven't told them the rules to that game, I mean, they're at a disadvantage, but more importantly, you're at a disadvantage. Because if the potential could be that they're having a bad day as well, and so on and so forth, we don't know those things. So when building relationships and building communities and building those environments at work, when the end goal is the best possible outcome for everybody, like not just the organization and not just the husband and the wife, or the wife and the wife, or the husband and the husband. Like it's, you know, it's not what it's all of it. It's every relationship, friendship relationships, relationships with our children and our parents and our siblings and like it's just everything. It's not limited to just one encounter. So when we understand that providing clarity allows others to make a decision more accurate now to that. And just like in my experience yesterday with my clients, they really are on the same page of wanting to be this for each other. There's less clarity from one side to the other on how to do that precisely for that person. Our role and how we truly are contributing to the stuff that happens around us, it is mind-blowing how quickly, number one, we change momentum in relationships. We're never, setting people up for failure. One of the comments that I hear often from coaching, well, I know he's not going to be able to do it. Or I know that their mind is over here, or I know that she wants this. And I'm always like, really? What did she say? Or what did he say to make that so clear for you? And then it's almost dead silence because we say we know it, but we're still only saying that based on how we're interpreting information and our view, our perception of what we're witnessing.
So we're still kind of making it up in our heads, even though you could take a paragraph from a book or a magazine. That kind of dates me, but anyways, take a paragraph from anywhere and have 10 different people read it and get 10 different observations of that exact same paragraph
Chills.
with the exact same words, because it's all based on their own life experiences, right? Yeah.
100%. And such a great metaphor and analogy, because that's exactly it. And even better, those 10 people could also all be geniuses with a 200 IQ, and we're still going to get a different result for everybody. I mean, and even if you had an eidetic memory where you could just really read it verbatim, you're still doing that from here. And so it's just so important for us as humans to understand that this life experience does have ups and downs, and that our goal is to be the best we can be in any given moment that we take part. And what gives us a fighting chance in doing that is, number one, acknowledging, first of all, that we have the power to do so. Number two is taking those small baby steps to move it forward, to understand and accept that being in the rabbit hole is not necessarily a horrible thing. It gets really uncomfortable if we spend too much time in there. But going in and out of it from time to time, humans are going to do that on purpose. We are going to go looking for trouble because we're people who expand and grow and develop and learn and create and build. So if there was never anything to fix, most of us become complacent and, we just we're bored and we're just not having as much fun, because we are meant to do those things. And again, a real strong indicator of where we are on the scale, the number one indicator first is acknowledging how we feel and asking ourselves multiple times a day, how do I feel? How do I feel? And with lots of practice, you don't have to do it as often. You don't have to stop, but you won't have to do it as often because you get so used to living in a place of positive vibration that your world around you is doing the same thing. your algorithm changes. And there's a big reason, especially now in technology, because if we're going to use social media as much as we use it, I'm always like, use it to look up the fun stuff.
Yeah.
Use it to, laugh at the funny animal videos and the heartwarming things, as long as you can stay in the positive end of the bucket when you do that. And then your algorithm will change and you'll start seeing more and more of that. Or look up what that other person did wrong and then see what your algorithm does.
I recognize now that I didn't before, was making it up in my head. And
Mm-hmm.
I find that if I'm having more, sounds really, if I'm having more of that conversation in my head than I should be, then I'm making it up, right? Rather than, and I'm rabbit hole adjacent or a foot under,
Yeah.
I'm definitely in there, the more I make it up in my head rather than, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and it's like this momentum thing that happens. If we're in it, it's remarkable how easy it is to remember all of the shite that came before
yeah,
it. Right? Like all of a sudden, and again, you end up remembering things that happened 20 years ago, 30 years ago, yesterday. And then we start creating the future from there too, because if we're in it and then we're thinking about tomorrow, what do we
yeah,
say? Oh, it's going to be a disaster. I'm never going to get it all done. And then the reality is tomorrow isn't here yet, but we're building tomorrow right now. So right now, I feel overwhelmed for tomorrow when it's not even here yet. We've said this over and over again and, repeat it so much that it probably sounds ridiculous now, but we have to give ourselves credit for everything that happens in our experience. And when we are in the rabbit hole and something sideways happens, we get to take some credit for that. But I want humans to be able to take credit for that with a new perspective. I was in the rabbit hole, which makes perfect sense because, again, my brain and everything that was happening in here was right? So it makes sense that I was in the rabbit hole. I acknowledge that I was there. And I have a desire to be somewhere else, and I'm going to go try to do that. I had a client say, why do I always have to be the one to be on the upper echelon? I'm like, you don't, right? You don't have to always be the one, but don't expect to be here if you're not.
God, yeah,
We don't have to live here. Lots of people don't. I don't 100% of the time. We don't have to be here. We can be here, but don't expect this if you are.
it's so good.
So good. And it won't feel as bad either. Because when we're here and we acknowledge that we're here and we can say to ourselves, makes sense, I'm here, I've got this going on over there, I'm focusing on that over here. I had this conversation that I didn't really appreciate. I don't really know what I want. I'm not sure where I'm headed. 100% makes sense that I'm here. I'm not going to get upset that I don't feel good. And the reality is as soon as we acknowledge that it makes sense that we're here, we start to feel better. And then we move up the chain. And then we get access to all of that beautiful information that exists from here. So now,
Yep,
me too, in a big way,
yep,
chills in a big way. When we say to ourselves, it's okay that I'm here, it makes sense that I'm here, this means that I'm working towards something else. This means I'm on my way to some new discoveries. This means I've truly realized I need a different type of relationship. This means then those words that we were hearing a minute ago that were like, oh, you got all this work to do and you're going to be overwhelmed and you got to get this done and this done. And we're like, 5 big deep breaths in and out. allowing ourselves to appreciate being in the bucket. And then before we know it, we are now creating memories and images and stuff in here from here. And then that's when the ideas flow, the solutions come, again, just like in our meeting yesterday, laughter started to ensue a little bit the more clear we got. Everybody was pitching in, everybody had ideas and clarity and understanding, and then we took it away. And then in that, really what's so beautiful in that too is the supervisor, your team supervisor, was going to release a process that wasn't ready. We now, by getting everybody together, getting everybody who, is going to be impacted by it from our perspective, having that dialogue, having that conversation, now when we release it because other people are going to have to follow this process, right? It's not really related to us so much in our department. This is for everybody else to get on board as well. Now, not only did we do the homework to make sure we understand what really is important, and we went back to the basics. What is the company policy?
Basics.
Back to the basics. It is not up to us to create our organization's policies. It is up to us to make sure that we perform work and our duties within those policies. And by doing that, everybody on the team yesterday learned, myself included. There were some things that I wasn't clear on. And clearly we have a couple of new employees as well. They started that meeting yesterday with, I am so confused, to the end of our meeting going, no, I got this. I get it now.
And reached out afterwards, even just for some more.
Even better.
It was
even better.
Pure utter genius. Like it really was
so good. And it's one of those things, as I kind of hold multiple hats in the company we work for, not only as a coach, but as a process improvement specialist. There's always a method to that madness, and it's being able to go through all of the steps we need to get to the desired outcome. And that's the same thing in our personal lives. When we want peace and we want respect and we want open communication, and open communication is such a good one, because if I want open communication from you, then I must be a safe space for you to even be able to do it.
Agreed. Yep. 1000%.
If I want you to respect me, then I must be in a place that is respectful of you. If I want to be cared for and loved, then I must be coming to the table with loving intentions and caring intentions and supportive intentions. But it's something that we forget sometimes, because again, it isn't your job to soothe me. Now, it's also not your job to poke the bear, just like for partners out there in relationships, if hubby or lady or whatever your dynamic is having a rough time, now is not the time to be in their face pointing out what they did last week too, and then expecting a different result from here. And then what ends up happening is we end up shutting down and creating barriers and walls, because now that person is like, I don't feel safe having this conversation, so I'm just not going to talk anymore. And then we end up creating more discord than true open dialogue and getting to the solution.
It's like it's like my fiance and I, and for date night, and him going, well, what do you feel like? And I'm like, well, I don't know. What do you feel like? And then not making a decision. And before we know it, it's like, well, just stay home then, So then being able to have that conversation going, okay, these date nights are important, and they're important to us for these different reasons. So let's come up with a solution so that we don't miss date nights, because neither one of us can make a dang decision. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So what was your solution?
We take turns.
And there's other things you guys could do too that might be super fun. If it's a night where you're heading out, it's a plan to go out, not a date night in, but a date night out. You pick your 5 favorite restaurants or your 5 favorite activities, you stick them in a hat and you pull one.
Yeah. Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah.
Right? There's so many things that we can do that takes off the pressure. And I know there's relationships as well where it's like, if it's up to you to make the decision about what to do, give 3 options. Or, and I actually heard this, I can't remember, probably on a TikTok somewhere, where someone was like, "You're never going to guess where I decided to take us out tonight." And you wait for them to guess. And the first thing that they say is, "Yes, that's exactly where we're going." So, your partner says to you, "Guess where I'm taking you to dinner tonight?"
Red Lobster.
"Oh my God, you're right. We're going to Red Lobster."
Isn't that kind of a sneaky way of getting an answer?
It's a way of truly figuring out what you want.
That's true. Hey, that's genius. I'm totally going to use that. Except if he
Do it.
says, "I'm not guessing. I'm not playing your game." Then you clearly know he's in the rabbit hole too, though, right?
Then I wouldn't be playing any games at all.
Yeah. Great. Yeah.
Right? And it's not really meant to be a game. It's meant to get to a decision without argument.
Gotcha.
It's meant to have the person you're talking to look within themselves to figure out what they want.
It's genius. Yeah.
And that's part of what stands in our way, especially from a law of attraction perspective. We don't feel good is when we don't know what we want. We are never going to feel good without knowing what we want. Just like how come sometimes those conversations can turn into an argument, even. I always have to pick, and you always make me pick, and take away some of the guesswork. And when we're in the rabbit hole, it's hard for us to determine what we want. Because I don't know. It's interesting because that's such a good one. And I know we're running out of time, so I'll wrap it up really quick. But that's an interesting one with the food one. Like, where are we going to go to dinner? Because even asking the question means the person asking the question doesn't know.
That's true.
Because if they knew, they would say, "Hey, I'm thinking about A, B, C. Which one feels best for you?" And then if you say, "Well, I don't know, I'll pick any one of those you pick," you're getting a little bit tricky now, because they asked you specifically, which one of these would you pick? You got to pick one.
Gotcha.
Because again, when we go back to, but which one do you want?
Yeah.
Now we're back there. And really what they're asking for is just a solution.
They wouldn't have come up with those 3 options if it wasn't something they wanted, correct? Yeah.
Exactly.
It's truly amazing. So it's not about what others do, but what you yourself do. And it's...
Yes. Clearer said would be, it is about the way that we react to what others do. Because they're playing in it too. Like, we're not just making stuff up here. They're in it too. But it is our response to that matters.
Well, I think for me, I totally have clarity, and I'm going to use some of that food restaurant you pick stuff, because that's like,
I can't wait to hear about it too.
It's absolute genius. If any of our listeners have any questions or comments or topics you want us to discuss, please leave your comments below. Until next time.
Bye, everyone.